Among the top most commonly used words of English are the articles, the definite article and the indefinite article. The indefinite article, of course, has these variants, or what we call allomorphs. Allomorph may sound a bit like a prehistoric creature, but allomorphs are just different forms of a single thing. Now these are conditioned allomorphs. We can state the conditions under which the different forms manifest. These particular conditions are actually ones that often make a difference in pronunciation, namely whether the word is before a consonant or a vowel. So it's a start, an end, a moron, but an idiot. So why do we have these variants? Well, the N on the end of this form has the effect of keeping vowels apart. When two vowels come into contact, it's technically called hiatus, and human languages, to one degree or another, don't like it. Speech sounds are clearer, they stand out more if we just alternate consonants and vowels, closure and opening. Strings of consonants and strings of vowels are the exception in human language, rather than the rule. So the N in an end is a way of avoiding the hiatus of a end. This is often called hiatus resolution because it resolves the problem of hiatus. Now everyone knows about the two forms of the indefinite article because they're shown in the writing. But people are much less aware that speakers can vary the form of the definite article in the same conditioned way. In my speech, I use the before a consonant and the before a vowel. So just like a start, an end, I say the start, the end, the moron, the idiot. If these transcriptions confuse you, check out some of my other videos. Of course, mine isn't the only accent that exhibits this kind of variation in the definite article.
Now here's the ranks and the order. The ranks, the order.
And I have the same thing with this word. To start, to end. This video is not addressed to morons or to idiots.
The points you made about international comparisons is quite interesting to me and to us.
Likewise with the little word do. Do you speak like this? Do I? Yes, I do. Do morons? Do idiots? And so on. However, many will often use the forms with schwa even before vowels. The start, the end. To start, to end. Such speakers just don't care about hiatus, right? Wrong. Those schwa sounds, except in rapid speech, are usually separated from the following vowel by means of a glottal stop, that is a stopping of the breath by holding the vocal cords or vocal folds together. So the start, the end, to start, to end. Do they really do that? Yes. Do I? No.
But do all the countries on our planet impact the environment in the same way? To all.
This certainly isn't brand new. 30 years ago, Keating et al. Observed that among UCLA undergraduates taking introductory phonetics courses, the norm seems to be the before a consonant and the before a vowel. Today, those students will be around 50. And of course, this pattern could be heard a lot further back than the 1990s.
We're drinking, my friend, to the end.
Beginning a vowel with a glottal stop like this is called hard attack. Numerous languages use the glottal stop as their preferred form of hiatus resolution, including famously German, which often pronounces a glottal stop at the start of words with an initial vowel. Of course, full-blown hiatus can occur, as in general American, law enforcement, Obama administration, subpoenaing, etc. But it's not exactly the English language's idea of fun. Where I live, you're going to hear law enforcement and Obama administration and subpoenaing.
Somebody's subpoenaing.
In American rapid speech, it's common to resolve the hiatus by dropping one of the two abutting vowels.
Law enforcement, The
Obama administration.
Mueller's team is subpoenaing business records.
On the other hand, in relatively careful speech, the hiatus may be resolved by hard attack.
Law enforcement.
The Obama administration. subpoenaing.
And I strongly suspect that heart attack is increasing, at least in some kinds of English. It's very common, I think especially from younger American women, in presentational, relatively self-conscious speech aimed at an audience, which you get a lot of on YouTube.
Ultimately, the debate between like, should I update my book or unpublish it? And this design is actually on all of my books as my publisher logo as well.
I'll be going over the overarching major issue with Amazon.
The bright lights of the Big Apple just got a whole lot more festive.
And I see the shift from the end to the end, from to end to end, as part of this more general increase in heart attack. Now sometimes speakers use both kinds of hiatus resolution at the same time, the pre-vowel forms the and to, and the separating glottal stop of heart attack. So we get the end and to end. It's a bit like using two kinds of contraception to make double sure. Forms like those are especially common on YouTube, where many speakers have what I call weak form strengthening, namely the increased use of strong forms of words that are more likely to be weak in more conversational speech.
In a famous quote that he might have never actually said.
Incidentally, the word another is reanalyzed by many speakers, especially Americans, as a plus nother, which we can see in the phrase a whole nother. The same thing happened historically with various other words like a newt, a nickname, and a notch.
I don't think I'm an idiot, so maybe I'm an idiot.
And weak form strengthening, as in a start and a moron, can also apply to the first part of another.
Another sense. Another very old critique of democracy.
And so back to the indefinite article. As I'm sure some of you will already have been thinking, not all forms of English have the standard allomorphy, a start, an end. Many varieties of English don't or don't always use the form with n. So they can say things like a end and a idiot. This used to be common even in England. According to Joseph Wright's 1905 English dialect grammar, very few dialects follow the rule of the literary language according to which an is used before a vowel. Much more recently, Susan Fox studied the speech of East London adolescents, both white and of Bangladeshi origin. The white Anglo teenagers, especially the girls, had basically the same pattern with the articles that I have, the start, the end, a start, an end. But the Bangladeshi boys, 70 to 80% of the time, used the and before vowels, as in the end, end, always according to Fox, with the separating glottal stop. Obviously, this raises the question of influence from other languages, which is something we can pretty clearly identify in another part of the world where forms like end are heard, at least from some speakers, some of the time, namely South Africa. Here's a clip of South African English from renowned dialect coach Paul Meyer's invaluable resource, the International Dialects of English Archive. Do check out his links below.
I was an adult by the time that I reached 10. I was responsible like an adult. An Arab child comes into my class with only Arabic background.
And South African English exhibits influence from Afrikaans, which, like German, has quite a lot of hard attack.
South Africa.
South Africa.
And so to the US, where several dialects can have the endless indefinite article before a vowel.
It's an interesting little book. It's an interesting little book.
It's perhaps most associated with African American English.
As an African American,
especially as an African American male,
the waiter is going to be an asshole.
I wonder what African samurai would wear.
I'm an African American grad student.
Then an interesting age range.
An albino Oscar, an African fish.
To make her like an African American figure that women could look up to.
As a other allied health professional.
And we can hear in those examples the separating glottal stop that resolves the hiatus. After all, if what you're trying to do is to prevent two vowels from touching, hard attack will do the trick. Why waste energy on the N as well? If the separating glottal stop is dropped, I suspect it's mostly in rapid speech.
The average age of African Americans is about 34. Age of
What's striking, at least to me, is what seems to be a remarkable increase of the indefinite article before a vowel without N in General American English. It's been noted before now, but these days it seems unavoidable in American YouTube videos. It's perhaps most common when the indefinite article is followed by a pause or hesitation. Speakers very often say the indefinite article without N, even when they aren't sure yet whether the next word's going to start with a consonant or a vowel. Statistically, this is a good bet, because English words are far more likely to start with a consonant than with a vowel. It's why if you check any corpus of English, you'll find that an is much less frequent than a.
And discuss a
versus a.
This is
It's a.
And if you suddenly realise that the noun or adjective you actually want to say next starts with a vowel, you can do what I'm fairly sure I'd do, namely go back and make a repair.
And discuss another issue.
Versus an anti-Semitic cartoon.
This is an appeal.
It's an African-led organization.
For me, as an African American,
a room of one's own is an extrapolation.
North Korea, which is just an awful, brutal dictatorship.
But if you've actually paused, there's no need to worry about hiatus, because the indefinite article you've just said and the upcoming vowel are separated by that pause. Why bother repairing? Why not just carry on?
Which is a African American community.
A African employee.
The tax at a other type of development.
A African American.
This is a original.
I have a other cardigan.
And once you've set the precedent for doing this, it's literally only a matter of time before the pause starts to shrink.
With a African bush pilot.
Building a independent creative business.
It is a African American institution.
Has morphed into a extreme vetting.
A extreme marshmallow cannon.
A extreme.
I have a original bodice in my collection.
Soul swapping, a original 1985 pair.
With a imperfect union.
With a interesting family dynamic.
Voting for president is not an opportunity for you to express your feelings about the entire state of modern American culture.
Now, in those examples, we had the strong form A, often lengthened as part of the hesitation while the speaker thinks of the next word. Perhaps this strong form, with its final semi-vowel glide, helps to give a sense of hiatus resolution, as in words like mosaic and chaos. I don't have any good examples to show you of the strong article A linked directly to a following vowel in this way, like a-end or a-African, but perhaps they'll become more common. On the other hand, we certainly do hear examples of the indefinite article before a vowel pronounced as or a.
That's an interesting target.
That's another channel that I created.
Such an interesting thing.
As a other part of that,
he was kicked out of a other cult.
You think it's an interesting thing to do.
Comparing African cohort to a cohort in the European Union.
But it is an interesting thing.
Now, I think this kind of thing is much less common from Brits. We do get the odd case with pauses.
To do that, we're going to look back at an original Instagram post.
We've got a ladle, we've got a other spoon.
Because she's taken an original black and white woodcut.
But occasionally, I'm starting to hear examples like this.
Your server has to have an icon. Not the default Discord one, just has to have a icon.
There, the speaker is using a as a one-size-fits-all emphatic form. Now, if I wanted to emphasise the indefinite article that much, I'd use an. Maybe this speaker thinks an icon sounds too much like a person. But in the following example, there's no special emphasis at all.
The device comes with a Exmor T for mobile 52 megapixel main sensor. There's a 85mm equivalent.
Occasionally, I even see hints of the same thing creeping into official written English. I recently received this in an email from Asiana UK. I imagine some of you won't like that kind of thing at all, but what harm can it do? Well, actually I found on Stack Exchange a beautiful anecdote of what can go wrong. If you have the strong form of the indefinite article a separated from a following vowel by hard attack, the result sounds exactly the same as the number 8, pronounced with trendy glottling of the final T.
The V8 engine has 8 pistons. V8 engine, A engine, A engine.
So when this Stack Exchange contributor's friend was staying in an upscale hotel and ordered from room service a English muffin, is it really any wonder, bearing in mind that S is often not transmitted well over phone lines, that they were served and charged for a English muffins? If you'd like to discuss this and other topics with like-minded folks, please feel free to join my Discord. The link's below.